Cord blood donation versus banking. So private banking, you pay a certain fee on an annual basis, but that is your baby's stem cells left for your baby. Thankfully, in Hawaii, we have public donation. So after the baby is born and we clamp and cut the cord, then before the placenta is separated, we can collect the remaining blood that is in that cord. And they've just reduced the amount that's necessary to 110 grams. And so that's something we ask everybody on admission if that's something you would like to do. Because of our delayed cord clamping, sometimes though at a minute of life, we'll notice that the cord looks a little thin, so we'll just leave it for baby and not rush to get the cord clamped and cut if we don't think there's going to be enough. The benefit of public donation is there's no cost, and if it's not for your family, but it can help others. It's also, you get a phone call, or not a phone call, a thank you note if your donation is used to treat an illness, and you'll not get the person's name, but generally their age and what the illness was. And then as a collector, I get a little notice that says that what I collected from you has been used. So that's just kind of a great way to get feedback from your donation. So just to pay attention again to the placenta, we will give you a tour if you want to look at the placenta. There's a pattern that's like a tree of life. And so when you look at the trunk of the trees and the branches that are above it, the placenta has that same appearance. So this is one of those pictures of which one is the tree and which one is the trunk, or the tree and which one is the placenta. And so the placenta has the white cord and the tree has the black trunk. So that's the difference. But they do look so beautiful and similar. So we can also, if you don't want to take it home with you, I highly recommend taking pictures. We can do placenta art. And then when we show you mama's side, we can pull the membranes around and show you baby's house too. So coping techniques. So you've seen some in the video that you watched, and we'll have some others. I think it's important to reassure the partner, your support people, that as labor approaches, you might feel excitement, you might feel anxiety, and everything in between. And you're not alone. Most expectant partners experience conflicting emotions, and you might be concerned about your ability to support your partner in labor and delivery. Will help you. And that's where it's so nice to have two people. In that first video with her sister being there so he could rest. And then the next video, you'll see there's lots of people around that can help and step in. And sometimes just knowing what to expect. So again, preparing, which is what this class is. Much of the fear and the anxiety can disappear if you know what's going to be expected. We can prepare, but we can't predict. So your role as a birth partner is to take her safely to the hospital. Like in that first video, you saw him videotaping just their journey, breathing with her and timing the contractions, bringing her water, staying calm, helping her to focus. Sometimes the eye contact really becomes important, and then when you want her to breathe in, lifting your head up and then down, just to kind of remind her to take those deep breaths. Encourage her, tell her she's beautiful, she's strong, she's doing a fantastic job. Touch her lovingly, give her lots of hugs, offer comfort with music, massage, a cool cloth, ice chips, all of those things. Become the rhythm and the ritual for her. So with each contraction and in between, that maybe you're going to do the hip squeeze and then offer her water. Trust yourself to respond to her needs and listen to her and watch for nonverbal cues. Take good care of yourself, eat, drink, and rest when you can, and we're there for you also. And ask any question. If you're concerned about something, just whisper it to us. One of the things to not do, though, is to shout out, she's tired, she can't do this, right? Those are deflating expressions. If you're concerned that she's tired, come over and whisper it to us, okay? The moment you put that out into the room, or if she thinks that you believe she can't do it, then she's going to give up on herself too. So breathing becomes really, really important. It's an automatic response to pain, right? If you get your shin, you breathe fast. Um, Provides a sense of well-being and control, increases your oxygen, provides more strength and energy, brings purpose to each contraction, vocalization. And the next video that we play, you'll hear she reflects on her birth and that just sounds just came out of her mouth, but it felt better. You know, I like that. Avoid holding your breath. And breathing helps when you want to push or bear down and it's not the right time. And sometimes when baby's crowning, I'll have you breathe instead of push with the contraction, just to allow the perineum to stretch. So if we just take a moment and close our eyes, we'll just do a little box breath, just kind of a nice calming breath to take. And just so take a moment to just breathe through your nose, out through your mouth. And again, your videos are off and I can't hear you, so just be comfortable in your own space. There's no judgment. Opening your hands on your lap and letting them just be loose. Pay attention to how you're sitting. Maybe you want to sit up a little straighter. And this box breath that we're going to do is it to the count of 4. And how it works is you're going to breathe in to 4. And then with that inhale, you're going to hold it for 4. Then exhale for 4. And then pause with that kind of the exhale, the empty space. So I'll count it out. Breathe in, 2, 3, 4. Pause, 2, 3, 4. Out, 2, 3, 4. Pause, 2, 3, 4. We'll count one more. Breathe in, 2, 3, 4. Pause, 2, 3, 4. Breathe out, 2, 3, 4. And pause, 2, 3, 4. Do another cycle just on your own. And one more. And just having done 4 cycles of that type of breathing, just feel how your body feels. Are your shoulders a little looser, your face a little bit more relaxed? Is your jaw loose, your tongue resting toward the top? And that's when you close your eyes too, you get rid of 80% of your stimulation, right? It really helps. And then when you're ready, just opening your eyes. There are other videotapes or YouTube videos that you can watch with different breathing techniques. Lamaze used to be the childbirth education technique that was more focused on the breath. And even Lamaze has kind of gotten away from it, and just the importance of taking deep breaths and focusing on your own breath. So here's a picture of our tub room. So they're nice and deep tubs. There's not usually enough for 2 like in that first video. I love the idea, but generally just one person in there. I suppose we could have 2, but we can bring in a chair. You can have people nearby. Making sure for comfort, maybe beverages, bring in your own water bottle, movement, position change, the hot or the cold, touch, massage, and people get to a point in their labor where they're like, don't touch me, and that's a good sign too. Aromatherapy, focus, distraction, the guided imagery, music and dance. I would love it to see, you know, partner, you're leaned up against your partner's back and they're lifting your belly for you while you're just swaying back and forth, and then vocalization. So these are actual positive affirmations that one of my clients put on the back of the mirror that we have in the room, just so that her partner could have something to whisper to her, or she could glance up. I love that I'm a badass mama bear, right? That's just they're all positive. That we all get to that point in labor where we want to shake our heads no. You want to just make yourself nod, right? And then position for labor. I showed you the birth balls that we have. You can sit on the toilet, walking. Our beds can do all kinds of things. We can get you squatting, side lying, standing, and those are all for birth too. Like, we'll work around you. Again, create your space to make it seem more like your home, right? So you've got your personality there. And then for packing your own clothes, we've talked about pillow, aromatherapy, creating your space, your speaker, charging cables, something to make you laugh. And then you may want to put in a little tiny bottle of coconut oil or almond oil or even olive for the perineum, for when the baby is crowning. We have mineral oil. I can't get the hospital yet to stop with the mineral oil. Mineral oil is slippery, but it stays on the surface of your skin. Where coconut oil or almond oil, your skin absorbs it and it becomes more elastic, right? So if you want to bring in your own oils, you can. So this video is a young girl who's well supported by her family.
Alex is a single, first-time teen mom. Her labor starts late one night with contractions. She labors at home with the support of several friends who provide emotional support and help her time these early contractions.
I knew I was in labor because my contractions were harder. I was really uncomfortable, and I was just really, I didn't want to talk.
How you doing there? She wants to go in.
I decided it was time to go to the hospital when I couldn't talk during my contractions. And I really was concentrating on my breathing.
Alex's friend calls her healthcare provider.
Hi, is Diana there? Yeah, could you page her for me? Well, Diane told us to call her when Alex was gonna head to the hospital. All right, thank you. Bye.
Alex arrives at the hospital and the labor nurse checks her cervix. The nurse suggests that Alex drink some water.
If she's contracting because she's dehydrated, it'll calm them down. If she's contracting because she's really trying to go into labor, it will give her uterus what it needs to be more effective to change her cervix. The water's a win-win.
The nurse also suggests that Alex get up and walk around the hospital to see if it strengthens her contractions.
You have to walk for an hour?
Yeah.
When I was in early labor, I walked around and tried focusing on my breathing when I had a contraction. I walked up and down stairs too. Stair climbing just relieved the pressure in between my legs, and just to stand up helped.
Well, hello, beautiful. Go one more time. 500. Up and down.
After an hour of walking, Alex's healthcare provider arrives to check her. She finds that Alex's cervix hasn't changed.
Home you go, at least for a while.
She advises Alex to rest at home until her contractions are stronger.
Well, right, but I do want you to sleep. The best thing you can do.
We are
is
gonna go
sleep.
home and go to sleep.
Right.
After resting throughout the night with milder contractions, Alex and her mother return to the hospital the next morning when her contractions are stronger and more frequent.
During active labor, my contractions were harder, and focusing was harder because they hurt worse, and it was just harder to keep my mind on something and just stay on it. My hips felt like they were spreading, like really, really far apart. And to help me try to get comfortable, I had my mom rub my lower back and press on it.
And sometimes too, at the same time, you can press on your hip. This kind of changes the way that our pelvis structure feels. It's kind of going, and it gives more room.
Does that feel good? That feels good. Yes, teach me how to do this, okay.
So if you're feeling like right where her hip is.
Okay.
Her just squeezing the side of my hips together just felt really good and just kind of took pressure off and didn't really let me think about the next contraction. So I got in the jacuzzi for maybe an hour and just stayed in there and relaxed.
When she was in the jacuzzi tub, one of the parts I really liked, I think that helped her a lot, was the shower massager thing. The nurse had given us the idea to put that on her tummy, just right against there with the water coming out for the pressure, and I just rubbed that around and around on her tummy. Actually, I liked that because that worked for quite a while. So that was like I was just relaxing for a moment before the next phase.
Let it go. Just breathe. You want me to count, or does that really, it just irritates you, okay?
I was all trained and focused in the counting, the 1, 2, 3, 4, which Alex did not like at all. She didn't want anything to do with mom counting, so I had to throw that out the window, and I was a little lost, but that's one thing they taught us in the classes is, you know, as the coach, you have to be ready for anything.
See, there you go. Great.
Contractions intensify even more as Alex enters transition, which is usually the shortest but most challenging phase of labor when the cervix dilates completely.
The techniques I used during transition was laying on my side and just squeezing the bar that I had on my sides of the bed and just breathing really hard.
Trust your body that it knows exactly what it's doing. You're doing wonderful.
That's a good one, Alex. That was good.
Moaning came naturally just because when I had a contraction, I just felt like, it just came. I didn't do it. It just came. Just when I did moan, it felt better, and I didn't think about the contraction as much.
Here's just beautiful.
During the transition phase, she was extremely agitated, but I knew in my head and in my heart that it was almost over. We were at a point where it was done, but trying to convince her of that and just be real encouraging. I mean, my voice got deeper, you know, and just really had to like try to get in her face. I remember trying to get eye contact.
You're doing so good. You really are. I am so proud of you. I know. You're doing really good. Breathe, sweetheart. Don't fight it, breathe.
From my support people, I really needed them just to let me squeeze their hands and just to sit there and tell me I can do this and not let me down.
Alex requests that her healthcare provider check her cervix to see how far she is dilated. Alex's healthcare provider will break the bag of waters to help Alex progress to the pushing stage of labor.
When I break the bag of waters, it's going to feel like a warm waterfall, but it'll probably feel like a lot more pressure down. You're 9 centimeters. I think you're probably almost ready to push the baby.
Oh my God.
During the pushing phase, I stepped back because Justin, the baby's daddy, was there at the time. So I just got to stand there and really watch him just come. So.
Okay, take a deep cleansing breath. Big breath in and out.
Emotionally, I felt relieved to push, and I couldn't wait to see his face. I wanted to just finally hold him and give him a kiss and be done.
After just a few short pushes, the baby's head starts to emerge.
Look at all that hair, Alex. Lots of hair. Baby, you're doing great.
Just perfect.
Just good.
Now take a breath. Gently. Okay. Gently. Okay. Gently. Gently. There you Now you can rest your head back.
When the baby came out, they laid him on top of me. I was really excited and happy. I felt so much love, I can't even explain it.
Okay, Justin, got your son out into the world.
Go for it.
Yay.
There he is.
There he is.
And to have all the people witness the birth was exciting, and it helped with the support that I had from all of them in the room.
So cute.
I have never been on the receiving end of being able to watch a birth. So actually being able to see him born, it was awesome. And I look at my daughter and I'm really proud of her.
I decided to breastfeed because I heard that they get more protein and stuff like that, and it's better than bottle feeding.
We might just pause for a little bit. Just let him kind of, he's learning how to suck, swallow, and breathe all at the same time. And he's learning just as much as you are, so. And then before you know, oh yeah, he's got a good latch.
Emotionally, I felt good with it. I felt confident with it, and I thought it would make a better bond between me and him. Childbirth has affected my life a lot. I have someone who depends on me now, someone who relies on me, who I have to wake up to at night, who just needs me all the time. And that doesn't stop. And he's my number one right now, and always will be.
So all of the support, really working hard for her, but her vocalization was wonderful, right? And also just the going home, that sometimes you come in and there's the practice contractions, but the cervix hasn't changed. So staying positive is really, really important and affecting all of those hormones, right? So all women experience some discomfort and pain during labor and delivery. Some people will call them rushes or surges, trying to avoid, the word pain, because it is different. It's something that's pushing baby out of your body. And the pain intensity varies from woman to woman. So even with pain medication, you'll still likely feel some form of discomfort during your labor. So we've got unmedicated birth. We have IV pain medication that we use fentanyl, epidural, and guided imagery. You can use that with everything. The water, And then we have the morphine and the Phenergan, more so if you're in a prodromal labor or very early stages and just need to get some sleep. So epidural, there's advantages in that the comfort is long lasting until we turn it off. And it facilitates labor by relaxing mama, right? Takes away kind of that, some of those hormones, but we hope the oxytocin one is at a nice high level to continue. So the disadvantages is that by relaxing you, we relax the blood vessels, and so your blood pressure can drop, which is affecting the placenta. You do need to have a catheter in. Some people will experience a pins and needle sensation. You do need to remain in the bed, and then you can only have ice chips at this point. And also being realistic with the epidural, it's not going to take everything away. Usually just the sharp pain, but you'll still feel like the pressure sensations. And then you'll want to have bad posture to place it. So the epidural is placed with a needle, but then the needle comes out and the catheter is what's left in place. And so you want to open up your spines by shoulders going forward and rounding out your back. So when the lady's in a green light position, that's a good position, like a C. So this is a video with an epidural, so you'll actually hear the consent for that and just see the difference. And you can also hear the feistiness too that can come from labor, which is normal.
My name is Chelsea, and this is my first child. We're having a girl. I'm really excited.
My name is Cameron. I'm just so excited I don't know, just holding my own child in my arms. It just excites me.
I could really wait for her to come another week or so, but I'm getting really anxious to see what she looks like and have her in my arms instead of in my stomach. And my midwives are saying that she's ready to go. I am having a lot of warm-up contractions. That means she's getting closer. My labor started early on Sunday morning. I noticed that my mucus plug came out, and after that it was followed by contractions. In the very early part of labor, when the contractions were still far apart, they actually told me to walk around.
When Chelsea first arrived at the hospital, she walked around the halls and sat in the tub. It's now several hours later, and she's experiencing stronger contractions.
When Chelsea was having contractions, I came by, sat by her and held her hand and just talked to her, tried to soothe her through it, just telling her that it's going to be okay and it's just going to be temporary.
As far as breathing techniques, I just made sure that I did deep breaths in and deep breaths out and just focused on my breathing in.
When her contractions started getting a little harder, I just laid back a little bit and just held her hand and just listened to what she wanted me to do because her mood was getting a little short because she was in pain.
Get off the bed, please.
I decided I wanted the epidural when I could no longer take the pain. Once I lost control of my breathing and once I felt like my breathing wasn't helping anymore to control the pain. I was 5 centimeters and 80% effaced. The anesthesiologist came about 10 minutes after I requested the epidural.
And then I go through with a larger needle and I go by feel. And if this was the needle, I want it to stop right before that surrounding around this spinal cord. And then once that sits there, it's hollow needle, and I'm going to go through with another small needle, pop through that surrounding around that spinal cord. It might not hurt, it just might feel really, really intense as far as pressure goes, okay? Any questions about the epidural I can answer for you?
Chelsea signs consent forms and is given fluids through an IV. It will take about 15 minutes to administer the epidural.
I'm gonna work back here and do a few things, okay, Chelsea?
The anesthesiologist talked me through the whole process, so I knew what was going on the whole time.
The anesthesiologist injects a local anesthetic.
That part was kind of painful because it was like a stinging sensation. Immediately after they started administering the drugs, it worked really fast.
Just hold her hands or something for her, okay?
When she was receiving the epidural, they had me stand in front of her and hold her right hand and just calm her while they did it. My job was just to support her.
Okay, you can sit anywhere you'd like to. Okay, butt feeling warm, toes feeling warm, that's all normal.
So that means everything's okay?
Yep, that means it's working.
This is great. Once I got the epidural, my labor became a lot easier. I was able to rest, not be in pain, basically. So I didn't really progress after I got the epidural very quickly, but I was able to get rest.
Well, once the epidural took effect, it was a lot more relaxed. She was relaxed and she just wanted to rest, and we were just waiting.
About an hour after receiving the epidural, Chelsea's healthcare provider comes to check her cervix.
You are 5 centimeters, totally thinned out, so 100%.
The nurse helps Chelsea change sides, and Chelsea continues to rest throughout the late afternoon and into the early evening. Since the hospital staff has changed shifts, a different provider comes in to check her progress.
You're like 5 centimeters.
In the past few hours, the baby's head has descended low enough for Chelsea's healthcare provider to break the bag of waters, which she hopes will help Chelsea's progress.
So I can break your bag. You're having a contraction right now. Can you feel it?
They decided to break my water to help speed the process up. When they broke my water, the procedure was kind of uncomfortable.
There's your water. Ooh, there's that. Nice. Wow. Waterfall. Yeah. It's a nice, clear.
Clear?
Clear fluid, yeah.
But it wasn't painful. It was just, for the most part, uncomfortable. Once they broke my water, the labor didn't speed up very much. I stayed at 5 centimeters for a few more hours after they broke my water.
You're the same. Mm-hmm.
I wasn't really frustrated. I was more worried and concerned that I might have to deliver via C-section.
When we broke your bag of water, the head came down quite a bit, but it's still kind of loose in there. The head isn't really strongly applied to the cervix.
They suggested that we try Pitocin to speed things up.
The Pitocin is just going to increase the contraction so that the head comes down more against the cervix. Okay, so Jane will come in and start that medicine here shortly.
Pitocin is an IV drug that is used to strengthen contractions. The nurse starts the IV and will turn the dosage up or down as needed.
Once they gave me the Pitocin, it did start to speed things up, and it also made the pressure a bit more intense. And it took about 6 hours to progress from 6 centimeters to 10 centimeters. So it did take a while for the Pitocin to work. I was sleeping when the nurse came into my room, and she woke me up to tell me that she was going to check me. Right after she checked me, she told me that it was time to push. Yeah, that was a nice wake-up call.
Well, I was actually asleep when she woke me up and told me it was time for her to push.
I'm ready to push.
And I was still kind of dazed, and she said that, and I was like, push what?
Because I had the epidural, I wasn't able to feel my contractions. So I was instructed to put my hands on my stomach and feel for the contractions. When my stomach tightened, I knew when to push.
There you go. Come on, mine.
By the time I started pushing, my contractions were spaced about 6 or 7 minutes apart, so I had a long break in between pushing each time.
Chelsea continues to push steadily for about 25 minutes until the baby's head appears.
See, your hair is curly, dark black. Come on, girl.
I didn't feel much of anything except pressure until her head actually came out.
Oh.
Yeah, let it just breathe. This is that point I was telling you about. Just try to relax. You know, that coffee is good for that. Okay. Oh my god. Yeah? Are you ready? Okay.
Physically, once she was born, I felt so much relief. Emotionally, I cried. I was very happy, and I felt like I finally did it, and I was really proud of myself, and I was in love with her immediately.
Yeah, they make pretty babies.
As soon as she came out, all the love I have went straight to my heart, you know, and I seen her and I was just amazed and so happy.
The first time I breastfed Kamai, I really felt really close to her, and I felt like I was her link to life. I was really proud that I was able to get her latched on by myself because I had no idea what I was doing. So it felt good to get her on and get her eating so soon.
The joys of having a newborn, I feel just seeing her grow every day and seeing her personality and her attitudes, just seeing the traits that she has from me and the traits that she has from Chelsea.
Whose nose is that? Those are mama's eyes. We know that. Don't be rolling your eyes at me.
The best part about having her is looking forward to the future, knowing that she's going to change every day, and I have something to look forward to every day as far as her personality changing and her first day of school and all the big milestones in her life.
Super. So that it looks a little different with an epidural. Plus, she had the augmentation of the breaking the bag, opening that bag of water. And then when that didn't work, they added on some Pitocin. So that's the synthetic oxytocin. So we use that in an induction process also. Sometimes we induce labor due to medical complications, diabetes, high blood pressure, preeclampsia, if you're very overdue. COVID disease in pregnancy was also at one point a reason for doing an induction. We've no longer been able to keep up with that. So we do not do an induction for COVID anymore. Body mass index, if it's higher than 35, we'll recommend an induction around 39 weeks. If you are over 40, we will recommend earlier induction and other maternal conditions. Sometimes baby tells us that we need to do an induction of labor, and that could be if they're not growing as expected, they're a little less, if there's signs of fetal distress, less fluid around the baby, if there's a congenital anomaly, or other newborn medical condition. So generally, if you remember the thumbs up to the skin between the thumb and the pointer finger, sometimes we need to use medicine to help soften the cervix. So that's usually misoprostol or Cervidil or a cook balloon. So those are our three options. Generally, the cook balloon we place when the cervix is at least a centimeter. It's a little balloon that goes deflated into the cervix, and then we inflate with some fluid, about 80 cc's of fluid. So you get the weight of the water as well as the mechanical dilation. So once you have a favorable cervix, so it's thinned out, a little bit more open, softer, moved forward, and baby's nice and low, we can enhance the contractions with using the IV Pitocin. So cesarean section, we'll talk a little bit about that. I think it's best if we just go right to the video and then we'll talk about it afterwards. So this is Daniela's birth. That ends up, so not a planned C-section, but this is a C-section recommended during the labor process and not an emergent one.
My name is Daniela. I'm 38 weeks pregnant and we're having our first baby girl.
Me llamo Oscar y estoy bien entusiasmado porque vamos a tener nuestro primer bebé.
from the last visit to the doctor, the baby's dropped and I'm about a centimeter dilated already. So I'm pretty sure baby's ready to come out any minute now.
A few days after her due date, Daniela's labor begins.
When I first started getting contractions, they were sort of like menstrual cramps, and by the time we had to go to the hospital, they were a lot stronger and they were every 5 minutes. When we first arrived to the hospital, we were in the triage center, and after about an hour in triage, they sent us up to the labor and delivery room.
Once in her labor room, Daniela requests an epidural for pain relief.
When I got the epidural, my contractions were, for me, extremely just strong by that time. A lot of the pain I was feeling was in my back, and it was due to the fact that she was posterior.
3 hours after getting the epidural, Daniela's midwife checks her cervix.
So no es muy rápido por 3 horas. Una cosa que podemos hacer es romper la bolsa de agua.
Daniela's midwife suggests breaking the bag of waters in an attempt to speed up progress. After further discussion, the midwife uses an amni hook to break the bag, which is a procedure similar to a vaginal exam.
So I will kind of check your cervix again about 10 o'clock or so. Okay. In the meantime, try and get some rest.
At 10 o'clock, the midwife returns to check Daniela's cervix.
Still about 5 centimeters. Okay. So this is going to help us know if you're contracting.
Since she is still at 5 centimeters, the midwife inserts a tube into Daniela's uterus, which will help record her contractions more closely. And she attaches a monitor to the baby's scalp for a more exact reading of the fetal heart rate. In another attempt to help progress, the nurse starts an IV of Pitocin, which is a drug that strengthens labor contractions.
This we just start off at a really small amount, and we turn it up depending on what your contractions are doing.
The amount of Pitocin Daniela receives can be adjusted as needed. Daniela is given an hour to rest and allow the Pitocin to work. Around 11 o'clock, Daniela's midwife performs another cervical check.
The only difference is the baby's cone head.
Daniela is still dilated to 5 centimeters despite receiving Pitocin.
So voy a hablar con la doctora, pero pienso que con las contracciones por 2 horas y la cuerda matriz es igual.
They suggested cesarean when they checked me to see how far dilated I was, and during the whole labor part, I only dilated to 5 centimeters, and I had an infection, so they were afraid of I didn't have the cesarean that something would happen to the baby.
Probably be in the operating room for a little over an hour. The babies usually have to about 10-15 minutes. And that part's fast.
Cuando me enteré que iban a hacer una cesárea, me sentí mal porque teníamos planeado hacer parto natural.
At that point, I believe I was disappointed because I wanted to be strong and have a natural labor. The thing that helped me the most to get through the disappointment was having my husband there with me and supporting me in everything and making sure that I was okay.
I'm Dr. Renner. I'm one of the residents here at the hospital. Nice to meet you.
The obstetrician who will perform the cesarean explains the consent form and talks about the surgery, including the possible risks.
The things that were going through my mind was more that I was scared when we were signing the papers.
Daniela signs the necessary release form and is prepped for surgery. She already has an epidural in place, so the dosage will be increased during surgery as needed. Oscar changes into scrubs because the operating room is a sterile area, and he will be with Daniela to support her during surgery. Next, Daniela is wheeled into the operating room.
The room was really, really cold, and I had a fever at that point, so it was scary and not scary at the same time because my husband was there with me the whole time.
durante la cesárea fue ayudarle, decirle que todo iba a salir bien, de darle ánimos, y le agarraba su mano.
During the surgery, I felt when they pulled her out of my stomach. And at that instant, my husband, he told me, it's a girl.
Cuando yo la vi, le dije a mi esposa, es una niña, es una niña. Y yo lloré. En ese momento lloramos los dos.
I was not able to touch my baby right away, but my husband was. And after they actually cleaned her, he was able to take her over towards me, and I couldn't really hold her. I kissed her, and I got excited, and I cried.
Oscar carries his daughter to the nursery. In the nursery, the pediatric nurse assesses the baby, which is common for babies born by cesarean.
Right after she was born, I was taken into a room where it was a recovery room, and right away I got to breastfeed her, and that was exciting because I was actually able to hold her, and it wasn't hard for her to latch on. It was hard for me because I couldn't really sit up straight. Emotionally, it made me happy inside because it made me think about having her here already and thinking of the whole process and that it was all worth it just to have her here with us already. The recovery at home was pretty difficult because I couldn't do things for myself. He had to help me bathe and cook, and my parents had to come over and help me clean the house. So it was weird because I'm so used to doing things on my own. I felt depressed at first, and when I started talking to my husband about it, he would tell me that it was okay. I mean, it was something normal that happened to a lot of people.
A los padres que van a tener un hijo, les diría que apoyaran mucho a su esposa, que estuvieran siempre con ella, porque a veces pasan dificultades, que pues cambio de la mujer.
It surprised me that I did need a lot of support. I needed support from people that had already had a cesarean, to know what they felt, to see whether or not what I was feeling was normal. And it did help me because my mom did have a cesarean, and my mother-in-law had a cesarean, so they've helped me a lot. Breastfeeding has actually been going really good. I thought we would have problems with her latching, but it's actually been going great. I am glad that I decided to breastfeed because it gives me a chance to bond with her even more.
De tener a mi hija, alguna vez yo la soñé, y ahora mi sueño se ha hecho realidad y es algo maravilloso que tengo.
The most special thing, or the best thing, is just having her here.
So for Daniela too, I think she makes an important point about the help that she needed postpartum, but that's not unique to having a C-section. I think even with a vaginal delivery, it's nice to have people cook and clean your house for you because you're busy with your newborn baby. And the baby blues are about 75% of us have the baby blues for about the first 2 weeks. So we don't diagnose postpartum depression in those first 2 weeks. It would be after, and it's repetitive bad thoughts is kind of what gives you the diagnosis of postpartum depression. So in her situation, her C-section was a non-urgent one. Basically, her baby was in a facing upright and was not turning. And so her labor stalled at 5 centimeters, which means she really didn't even get into active labor yet, right? Staying at that 5 centimeters, even though they broke her bag of water and gave her Pitocin. And then she got an infection in labor too, so they would have probably treated her with antibiotics through the IV. Very systematic, and slowly make it to the operating room. An emergency C-section would be more baby, the heart rate goes down and it stays down. If we do see what's called a deceleration of the heart rate on the monitor and it lasts or goes quite low, several people will be in your room all at once and will be explaining to you what we're looking at. And the first steps are to move and shift position. But if it does stay down, then we would do an emergency C-section. So we have 2 operating rooms here on Oahu. So again, my apologies to Hilo and Maui. The specifics of your hospitals, you will really have to check in with your group. I'm not sure if they're doing tours. I know we have not done tours yet, but you may have a conversation when you call labor and delivery or with your providers for the details of that. But we have 2 operating rooms that are right here on the floor. Our nurse anesthetists do the epidurals, and they would go in for the surgery. If you already have an epidural, then they would make sure that it is adequate, or they dose it a little heavier. If you don't have an epidural and it's an emergency, generally you would go to sleep for that surgery. And whenever somebody goes to sleep for the surgery, then they cannot have somebody with them at the time of the surgery because of the urgent situation. So sometimes a C-section can be scheduled. So like the first video that we saw, her baby was breech, so she had a scheduled date to come in. We can try to turn babies that are breech, so it's called an external cephalic version, but that is not without risk. So we'll go through that, and you get to decide if that's something you'd want to try. And sometimes the C-sections, when they're not planned, and they're non-urgent, it can be lack of progress of the cervix for dilating. Sometimes baby doesn't descend into the pelvis. In my experience, if the baby's too big to get into the pelvis, generally we'll see that. Fetal distress, the heart rate, or if somebody has a herpes outbreak to the vagina at the time of delivery, we will recommend a C-section for that too. And though it's very common, it's still major abdominal surgery, and it requires special care for yourself. The recovery is usually about 8 more weeks. So you do get out of bed relatively quickly. You want to make sure to take nice deep breaths so that you don't get a lung infection. We really do schedule medication, not always opiate. So even Tylenol and Motrin can really help with that C-section recovery. There are risks, so bleeding, organ damage, and infection. So the consent form she signed, that's what she was discussing with the doctor. And then passing gas is important after your cesarean, so we really do want to hear about that. And you can be kind of gassy, and it can be quite uncomfortable. And so that'll be important for your bowels and bladder to return to normal. So the postpartum period, you did it. You'll be at parenthood. So make sure to check out the newborn postpartum course on kp.org. That one is recorded. So baby goes skin to skin. You've heard me say that a few times. That promotes breastfeeding, regulates the baby's temperature, and they stay warmer, cry less, and nurse sooner when they're skin to skin with you. Birth partners get a chance too. When the mama gets up to the shower, that's a great time for Papa to take off his shirt and put baby right on skin to skin, unwrap baby, and then put a blanket over the 2 of you. So you'll be given identification bands. So baby has also a little alarm band. We are a locked unit so that we keep everybody, all of our families safe. And so the baby has a little alarm that if it were to go past a certain spot, it would announce stop, stop, stop. So you also will all have matching ID numbers. The only time the baby leaves your room postpartum is if you choose to have your baby boy circumcised or for the hearing screening, and all babies go for the hearing screening. So for the hearing screening, babies usually go alone, but the guy who runs that, he's so dynamic, puts his name on the board, shows you his badge and what room that he will be in doing the test. So your recovery, you'll stay in the labor room for about 2 hours. You might feel relieved, ecstatic, exhausted. Usually breastfeeding is started in those first 2 hours because baby's awake for 2 hours and then they're asleep for 24. So that's really that window to get breastfeeding started. And most babies and parents experience a period of alertness and curiosity for those first 2 hours, and then everybody gets really tired. After the 2 hours of bonding, breastfeeding, recovery, mom and babe need rest, sleep, and then take this time, this early days, to just talk to baby, touch, hold, sniff your newborn. And then remember that postpartum recovery is not about just recovering from birth, but the whole dynamic changes that took place during your pregnancy. So you got this. You can do it. Trust your body. Call us with questions or signs or symptoms of labor. And it's okay to park at that roundabout. There are the 2 places that are marked with a stork. You can move it later. You can go to the car park if mom is able to walk. There are wheelchairs at the front door if you need them. Usually there's security down there too. And our number is posted if you need us. You just go straight up to the 6th floor Family Birth Center. There's a little intercom that you press the button for, and then you'll come into labor and delivery. It's the same entrance to that area for postpartum too. So you do not need to stop on the 1st floor. There are no papers for you to file. We have your entire medical record here with us in the Epic medical records on the computer. So thank you for allowing us to be part of a very special time of your lives. I hope that this class has made you more prepared, and also that you know that we've got you, right? We will do all that we can to achieve a healthy, normal birth for you. This poem is just a reminder that there's a lot of special fancy language that's thrown out there, and the memorization of the active phase and the early phase and pushing and all of that. But in reality, your body knows what to do. You don't need to know all those fancy words. You just need to really trust your body. Okay, so questions at all? I am going to get out of my shared screen view and look at the chat if there's anything. Yes, skin to skin in the OR as well. And support person can bring a phone or a camera for photos in the operating room. And some of our physicians will let you play music too, which is so lovely. Okay, and then I think John is going to do the recording. Looks like he's already posted that. That's the full version, so he will edit eventually and I think put it on YouTube, so you could always call in a couple of weeks and ask the ed department that you signed up for this class with, and they can probably send you an email link. And let's see what else is in our chat. Okay, I'll stay on for just a little bit, but I know it's late. Again, thank you for understanding that Sunny and I are doing this outside of our other full-time schedule. But it's just lovely to be able to spend 3 hours talking about what your amazing bodies are going to do. Thank you, everybody. Sleep well and take care, and I'll see you here, labor and delivery. Good night. Thank you.
Thanks, Jen. Thanks, Sunny.
Thanks, John. Thanks for staying on, John.
Hi, Jennifer. This is hi. I just wanted to confirm the Kaiser Welcome to Kaiser webinar that happened maybe a week or 2 ago.
Yeah.
Did you guys have that? Because I joined on it and it never let me in.
Oh, well, that one's more for earlier in pregnancy. There is a recorded version of that too. It's actually on YouTube.
Oh, okay. Okay, I'll
Yeah,
take a look
so
at that.
yeah, if you are, because you come to YPO, right?
Yes, correct.
Yeah, so I can give you there's a dot phrase for it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Do you know who you see next?
I school tomorrow and it's what was her name? I mean, it was a doctor and I
Okay.
haven't been to her yet, so I don't
Okay.
know.
I can put on the I can look for it and put in the dot phrase for the link. There's a picture and then there's like a title with an underline, and on your after visit summary on the desktop, if you click on that, you will be linked to the video.
Okay, okay, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
And thank you so much. It was very informative. I really appreciate your time.
You're welcome. Thanks so much. Have a good night.
You too.
Sleep well. Bye-bye.
Bye.